gentlemen, please welcome our mayor, Buddy Dyer.
Whoever had that one clap, I appreciate that. It's the most I've gotten this whole week. So, welcome to the January 29th, 2016 meeting of the Orlando City Council, and we're going to begin today's proceedings with the invocation offered by Pastor Andy McDonald. Pastor McDonald is the senior pastor for Florida Hospital Church located in District 3, and he has served the church since 1984. Pastor McDonald graduated with his doctorate in ministry in 1998. His wife, Vicki, is an advanced registered nurse practitioner and is director of risk management for Florida Hospital Zephyr Hills. They are proud of their children and new grandson, which I hear is just the best thing.
Granddaughter.
Is it granddaughter?
The newest was a granddaughter.
Okay. When not in church, Pastor Andy loves to be sailing, biking, relaxing, spending time with his family, and working on home improvement projects. After the invocation, will be led in the Pledge of Allegiance offered today by District 2 Commissioner Tony Ortiz. And you may stand or you may remain seated. Most of us will stand.
Let's pray. Whether sitting on the city council or one who will address the council, we each come here today with mixed agendas. We seek a sane balance between wanting our own way at all costs and seeking the best for our city. These two agendas may be in harmony or at odds, and in sorting and deciding what is best, we need divine guidance. Our community is filled with differences, and we want to acknowledge, even celebrate those differences because they bring color and life, variety and texture, making our community a great place to live. But here, too, wisdom is needed. We seek to be wise enough to not accentuate and focus on our differences and allow them to pull us apart into little silos across our city, parochial and isolated. So today, may this body be wise as it manages all the differences and as it seeks for Orlando to be one community. We're privileged to live where the world comes to play, and yet we know that we are more. Recent tragedies have reminded us that we know how to have a good time and we know how to be there for one another in crisis. We're thankful for a strong community who have determined to not be crushed by crisis, but to simply use tragedy as opportunity for love to triumph. Today, as this council does its work, may each one remember their responsibility as leaders to ensure that Orlando is not only a just and peaceful community, but one committed to guarding the freedoms we enjoy, for which so many have given their lives. And now may each of these leaders and those who will stand before them this day be blessed and be enabled to practice love by doing unto others what they wish to be done for themselves. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the meeting to order. I'm going to silence my communication device, and I would ask everybody else to do the same. I'd call the meeting to order. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll and make a determination of a quorum, please?
I will, Mayor. Commissioner Gray.
Here.
Commissioner Ortiz.
Here.
Commissioner Stewart.
Here.
Commissioner Sheehan. Here. Commissioner Hill.
Here.
Commissioner Ings.
Here.
Mayor Dyer.
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Let's take up for consideration the minutes from the workshop, agenda review, and city council meetings of August the 15th.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Ortiz, second by Commissioner Stewart. All in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Okay, we have one recognition today, and I'm going to call on Quincy Richardson from FP&R to make that introduction.
Good afternoon, Commissioner and Mayor. I'd like to introduce the Boone High School rowing crew. This is a group of kids at Boone High School that have been doing tremendous things at Bill Frederick Park with rowing. This has been a long-standing commitment with them and the City of Orlando. And I'd like to bring up Coach Lenny and a handful of her seniors.
We are here today once again to thank the City of Orlando for their continual support of Boone Crew, Boone High School's rowing program, without which our team would not be able to continue to grow or thrive. As current captains of the team, we are proud to report that your endorsement allowed our team's success to continue during the 2015-2016 season. In particular, we would like to note our representation of William R. Boone High School and the City of Orlando at the 2016 SRAA National Championship in Nashport, Ohio, where our men's lightweight floor placed 9th in the nation. Of course, we know our success would not be possible without the help of our community, and as a team, we are always looking for ways to volunteer our time to help others in worthwhile causes in and around our neighborhoods. Events such as National Public Lands Day at Turkey Lake, the OUC Half Marathon, Relay for Life, Green Up Boone, and the Boone Reservation Run have allowed us the chance to give back to the city that has given us so much. Thank you from all the rowers, families, and coaches of Boone Crew.
Thank you. Well, I think we're going to do a picture. Why don't we have all the commissioners come down for this one? All right?
Hey, the Edgewater has a team? We won.
Okay, normally we would go right to the mayor's update, but if there's no objection from the council, what I would like to do is go to hearings number 1, which is the preliminary GOA budget for FY 2016-2017. So the executive director, chief financial officer, and chairman of our board can get back to work out at the airport. So any objection if I go ahead and hear that? Mr. Kruppenbacher, would you like to come up? I'm going to open a public hearing after your remarks with respect to the preliminary budget of the Greater Orlando Aviation Authority for fiscal year 2016-17. I mentioned Frank Kruppenbacher is the chairman of the board. Phil Brown, you want to wave there, Phil, in the handsome Orlando tie, is the executive director, and Kathleen Sharman is the chief financial officer, who's sitting right there. On August 10th, 2016, the GOA board passed a resolution approving its preliminary budget for fiscal year 2016-2017, commencing on October the 1st, 2016, and ending September the 30th, 2017. The preliminary budget for Orlando International Airport is $554,317, and the preliminary budget for the Orlando Executive Airport is $2,847,600. In accordance with Section 12 of the City Charter, GOA has submitted the preliminary budget to City Council for review during a public hearing. This hearing is for information only. The City Council does not vote on the budget. But I'd like Mr. Kruppenbacher to have an opportunity to give any remarks he would like before we open the public hearing.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. It's my pleasure to be here today. You have the budget in front of you. To the extent you have any questions, I brought Mr. Brown and Kathleen along because they can answer them. But I was just in China for the airport, and I was asked what made our airport unique by the head of one of the airlines, and I commented, and it's the same thing I say to everyone, the partnership we have with our local government, the City of Orlando, when you look at airports across the country, in my opinion, is unparalleled, and it leads to our success. And I just want to thank each of you and our community for supporting. We've passed 41 million passengers, Phil, I believe last month, and we're on target if we keep moving to hit 42. We're under construction, and at some point we can give you a lot of details on that. The other thing I just wanted to say in closing is I am very pleased to tell you that I will be supporting strongly, as I do believe my other board members. Mayor Dyer has discussed having an appropriate memorial for the victims and families of the recent tragedy at Pulse. And so I await the mayor bringing forward his thoughts, and we're going to support him wholeheartedly. And thank you for everything you did for our community this summer. It really was remarkably, and from an airport perspective, we watched very closely for obvious reasons. And I think due to the leadership of Mayor Dyer and each of you, we came through it as well as anyone could have expected. And thank you, Mayor and Commissioners.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So there's a lot going on at the airport. The trigger point for the design and construction of the South Terminal was reached in May, and that was $39 million, and we're already up to $42 million in count. So we know that we have started that at exactly the right time. And Council, I don't think we've been briefed. I have, but you haven't been briefed in a while on exactly what's going on in construction activity. So we will try to get that scheduled sometime in the not too distant future. With that, I would like to open the meeting for public comment on the GOA budget. Is there anyone for the public that would like to comment? Madam Clerk, do we have any cards for that purpose?
No, sir.
Then we will close the hearing for public comment. No action will be taken, and we thank you for being here today. Now we will move back to the mayor's update, followed by the consent agenda and commissioner comments. Our Orlando United Assistance Center continues to serve as a navigation point to access and assess the needs of and improve information, provide information, support, and resources to those who are affected by the Pulse tragedy. And on today's agenda, there is an item that will extend the partnership agreement with Heart of Florida United Way to provide administration management services for the assistance service for another 60 days. The additional 60 will allow us to gather more data and assess the needs and the long-term support in the best way to support the victims and their families. At the city, one of our top priorities is safety of our residents, and on today's agenda is an item that will do that. Our fire department is going through the accreditation process with the Commission on Accreditation for Ambulance Services, known as CAAS. This accreditation acknowledges that an agency is delivering the highest EMS standards in the industry, and if awarded in 2017, our department would be the only department in the state of Florida to have 3 different accreditations, and attaining these recognitions demonstrates our continued commitment to the highest quality of standard for OFD. Last thing that I would like to mention on today's agenda, as you recall, in December of last year, we established a moratorium on after-hours nightclubs and appointed an internal task force to look at these types of establishments. The moratorium was established after one after-hours nightclub did open in downtown. And on today's agenda is a first reading of an ordinance that would prohibit the operation of these type of clubs. That was recommended by the task force. And the one after-hours nightclub that was open is no longer operating. The task force believes that these types of establishments are not currently in demand from our residents. In addition, their findings were that they place an additional strain on our public safety resources, cause additional noise impacts, and create additional pressure on city resources to ensure our streets and sidewalks are clean and orderly when businesses open the very next morning. So as such, task force believes these burdens outweigh the benefits of allowing after-hours nightclubs. Even though the primary task of the nightclub of the task force was to look at after-hours nightclubs, I've asked the task force to continue their work as it relates to looking holistically at our nighttime economy. The task force will come back in the coming months with additional recommendations. With that, I would like to move on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda is a number of items that are acted upon through a single vote of council. We give each of our commissioners the opportunity to comment on the consent agenda or update you on items from their commission districts or overall interest. We rotate the order that we do that, and District 2 Commissioner Tony Ortiz is first up today.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to be very brief. I just want to say that we had a very successful Florida League of Cities convention. And Mayor, I wanted to congratulate you on your presentation to the league in reference to our City of Orlando tragedy at Paul's. Your comments, your presentation got pretty deep, and there was a lot of accolades about the way you spoke and how much respect all the cities around the state have for the City of Orlando, and how synergy was kind of synergy that was created around here is an example to follow. So great job, Mayor. Thank you. And I'm going to yield my time to Commissioner Stewart because I think he has a few things to say.
Commissioner Stewart?
I'll be short. Thank you very much. I've got some things I'll say later on. On the agenda, item B5, I want to tell you how much I appreciate what we have done so far, and continue to be available for the Victims Assistance and the United Assistance Center. It's good to work in partnership with the county, but it's also good to work in partnership with scores of other agencies that are involved, and for that, I'm deeply grateful. Thank you for your leadership, Mayor, and thank you for your leadership, Commissioner Sheehan, on those two issues. Let me also mention a couple of quick announcements. I'm excited to welcome Chief Mina and the OPD to the Rosemont Center on Tuesday, September 5th for a community barbecue, although I think it's the 5th? It's Tuesday, but I think it's the 6th. Anyway, it's next Tuesday. It starts at 5 o'clock. It's a chance for us to bring together the community and the police department. It's another opportunity for us to show that we are all one community, regardless of their particular role. I'm also grateful to all the staff that worked hard to make our Virginia Drive Corridor study a reality. We've had our first meeting. We hope to have our second meeting on September 20th. It'll be at 6:30 at Lou Gardens. If you have not heard about that yet, please give me a call my office, or check out the city's website. And with that, that's all that I have right now, Mayor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner. We'll move to District 4. Commissioner Sheehan.
Well, thank you, Mayor. In the district, we had a lot of interest in Milk District and Curry Ford area for Main Street, so glad to see that. And that'll be interesting if we do one in Curry Ford. That will actually involve 3 commissioners and the county, so ought to be a lot of fun, quite a challenge, but I think there's a lot of good representation in the Curry Ford area. I'm excited to see if we can get the Main Street there. On the item on the agenda today, yes, item V5, continuing funding for the United Assistance Center. Very, very important as we move forward, and in giving benefits to the folks that are impacted by Pulse. And just kind of adding up rudimentarily, it's almost been $6.5 million of impact to our community, including the medical bills and everything like that. And one person should not be able to do that much damage to a community. Also on the agenda, item C1, the Historic Preservation Board. Delighted to see the Municipal Auditorium and the Davis Armory get historic preservation status, balanced in the old and new, and respecting the history. And this is a beautiful Art Deco building, so I'm glad to see that today. And also the continuing support from McCoy Federal Credit Union for ongoing sponsorship of the Historic Preservation Calendar. And that's all I had, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Sheehan. Commissioner Hill, District 5.
Thank you, sir. On August the 18th, I attended a Solutions Summit that was held there at the FAMU Law School. Myself and there were other panelists, and we discussed, along with Deputy Chief Eric Smith, where the community came out. I was in great attendance, had about 100 or so young folk in the room, and we discussed teen violence, crime prevention, police brutality, excessive force, and citizen review boards, and community policing. You did a fantastic job, Deputy Chief. Thank you for your representation there. So a lot of tough questions, and you stood the test. Thank you. On Friday, August 19th, I attended a public screening here in District 5 by a Nigerian filmmaker. The movie was called Benevolence. It had international accreditation. It was over at the Three Mass Art and Event Center. It was a beautiful film about power and forgiveness. On August the 20th, I partnered with International Church of Faith there in the Paramore community, where we partnered with Second Harvest and gave away food to about 200 families with clothing and prayer. A couple there in the area asked Pastor Barnes to marry them, and they got married the following Sunday there in Paramore. Hope lives. And then also that following afternoon, myself and Commissioner Eames partnered with Hope for the Future, and they had a teen summit and a back-to-school drive, which targeted students throughout Orlando, the city, and the county. And they discussed goal setting, financial literacy, career development, coping skills, and they also did mock interview, and that they had about 50 students there and was well attended. Upcoming events here, we will be having a Women in Wealth. I'll be doing a Women in Wealth Economic Empowerment Summit here in the Rotunda on September the 16th, where we will be having financial planners talking about financial power, controlling your destiny, and making strong financial decisions here for women in the city and in District 5. Tonight, I'll be going over to the John H. Jackson Community Center, where I will be handing out awards to about 15 young butterflies. It's called the Butterfly Transformation Mentoring Program, where young girls through the ages of 12 to 18 for the last 8 weeks have been learning etiquette, life skills, and preparing them for college careers. So I'm excited about that program this evening. Also, I failed to mention last council, through the assistance of our Parks and Rec program, something that I've been, one of the initiatives when I first came in office was bridging the digital divide in the minority community. So this summer, I had my first coding camp, introducing our young kids to IT by a international PhD professor that grew up in Brooklyn, New York, grew up in the projects, but overcame through education, and now is a world-renowned IT professor. And she went over to the Northwest Center, and through the help of Rodney and Lisa Early, we had 15 students that we chose, and they all graduated the coding camp and learned how to design their own game. So this October, we will be expanding the program to all the centers. I will choose, not I, but the camp directors, the recreation directors will choose 5 students from each community center that I have, and I will be using my budget to have a computer programming courses for 8 integrals, and they will all learn how to do web designs. And my hope is, after they master that, is to go to the small businesses in District 5 and build websites for them to where now they'll become entrepreneurs. So I'm really excited about that program that's being put in place in District 5. And that's all I have for now.
Thank you, Commissioner Hill. We'll move to District 6. Commissioner Ings.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to kind of highlight some of the activities that took place at the District 6 6th Annual Red Tie Celebrity Golf Extravaganza that was held at Hawks Landing Golf Course, and specifically Cassandra Lewis, who was our main speaker, and she also added a very special touch to the event by singing the USA National Anthem outside just prior to the start of the event. So we want to really say thank you to Cassandra, because it really meant so much to all of the golfers that were there. And then also I had the back to school event, the Crime Walk, that started from the Washington Shores Shopping Center, and we marched on over to Frontline Outreach. Commissioner Hill was there to join us and be involved with this particular event. We had about 197 young people that marched against crime in the community. And this past Saturday, I sponsored the annual District 6 Fun Spot Day there for their back-to-school event, welcoming them back to from back to school so that they have their little celebration and be encouraged about school and really enjoying so many of the opportunities of learning and education. And then on Tuesday the 23rd, I sponsored with Representative Bruce Anton an annual community job fair. And this job fair was held at the Dr. James R. Smith Center on Bruton Boulevard. There were approximately 44 vendors and employers. There were about 187 job seekers that were there who actually registered. And of those job seekers, several were hired on the spot. So this was a great event for our community job fair. Many of the vendors certainly enjoyed being there too, and they were very thankful that we did have a very successful job fair. And they wanted to make sure that they were able to hire some of the people in their respective jobs. So that was a great event. And then I co-sponsored on Saturday, August 20th, with Jimmy Williams, the Shake It Off Health Expo. And this was the first of its kind. Jimmy Williams has Drop D No Limits Foundation. The event was held at the Walmart parking lot there at John Young and Columbia Street. And the tour will be held in several different other locations during the months of September, October, November, December, and January. So this is an opportunity for all people within the community to shake it off, get rid of some of the pounds, and live a healthy lifestyle. And I also attended the Banco do Brasil Business Development Luncheon held at the Citrus Club on Thursday, August the 25th at 255 South Orange Avenue. This was an event that really highlighted Banco do Brasil and how they're involved in our community. And specifically, we raised the awareness that Banco do Brasil is the first bank on International Drive in Orlando in District 6. So they were very happy with their location. The building was built from the ground up, and they've been very successful with their business opportunities, and they cite so many different achievements that had occurred. And the last thing that I have is on the agenda, the Housing F2, the intergovernmental agreement between the City of Orlando and Orange County, Florida for the administration of the housing opportunities for persons with AIDS, the HOPWA grant program. Just to reiterate that I will be voting no on this issue because over the past 20 years, we have efficiently and effectively administered this particular program, and it was awarded to us by HUD. HUD saw the opportunity for the City of Orlando to continue to be that leader over 20 years ago, and so we're still, maintaining that type of presence. And I just think that at this time it's not a good idea for us to abdicate our responsibilities to the county, and so therefore I'm voting no. I'd also like to say and end on a very good note that because of the funds that we raised at the Red Tie Celebrity Golf event was pretty significant and overwhelming, and because of the incident that happened at the Pulse nightclub on June the 12th, that the Red Tie Celebrity Golf event will be donating $5,000 towards the One Orlando Fund. Thank you, Mayor, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you for that contribution. We are going to move on to District 1. Commissioner Jim Gray.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda, acknowledging Commissioner Ng's objection to F2.
Motion by Commissioner Gray, second by Commissioner Stewart. All in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. The city clerk let me know that when I called the meeting to order, that I set it as the January 20, or December, January? Some month other than August, in any event. But hopefully most of you are aware that it is August the 29th and not January the 29th. And then also, because it is August the 29th and not January the 29th, tomorrow is Election Day for the state of Florida. So if you have not already early voted or cast an absentee ballot, I would encourage each and every one of you to go cast your ballot and make your voice be heard tomorrow. Okay, with that, we will move to, let's see, how about if, without objection, we recess the city council meeting and call to order the CRA meeting. We have one item of business. Thomas?
Thank you, and good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. The sole item of business before the CRA today is your Downtown Facade and Building Stabilization Program funding agreement between the CRA and BBA General Partners Incorporated. As you know, the Downtown Facade and Building Stabilization Program offers a 3-year interest-free deferred loan for improvements to the facades or building stabilization improvements in existing properties within the downtown CRA. BBA General Partners has applied for assistance at a property they purchased at 822 West Central, where they're relocating from the Dr. Phillips area because they've outgrown their current space. They now have 27 employees. They expect to grow to 40 employees within the next 6 months. The funding would be used to replace the HVAC system as well as to do roof replacement. The program allows for a match of 50% up to a not to exceed of $40,000. The approved or requested scope of services that they are applying for, the value of which exceeds $86,000, therefore qualifying them for the full $40,000 match. The Downtown Facade Grant Review Committee has considered it and recommends approval. And Mayor and Commissioners, if there are no questions, staff is requesting approval of the Downtown Facade and Building Stabilization Program funding agreement between the CRA and BBA General Partners for 822 West Central Boulevard, subject to review and approval by the City Attorney's Office, and authorizing the Chair and the Executive Director to execute such funding agreements.
I did have a question. I think you were going to get back with me, but I don't recall. The jobs, I was more concerned about the 20 jobs and how we could put that information out and what type of jobs that's coming up and how would they be able to apply.
Right, and Commissioner, we talked about that in your briefing. We've reached out to them. We have not yet had a chance to meet since I met with you on Friday, but we will be bringing specific information on those new 13 jobs that they're looking to expand between now and the next 6 months.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Sheehan. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Then we will, further business come before the CRA, Thomas?
Yes, ma'am, Mayor. Thank you.
Then we will adjourn the CRA meeting. We will reconvene the City Council meeting. It brings us to new business, and today under new business we'll be voting on adopting a resolution that will designate Orlando as a compassionate city. This is an issue that Commissioner Stewart has brought forward. By signing the Charter for Compassion, we will show the world that Orlando has a long history of establishing partnerships which have supported the development of services and programs that were built on the foundation of compassion. And as our city continues to heal, it remains important to us that we renew that commitment to support and help each other. Residents can join us in our Compassion City campaign by visiting our website, cityoforlando.net, to learn more. Connect to a variety of programs that exemplify the compassionate nature of our great city and share acts of compassion and upload photos. I want to call on Commissioner Stewart, who has led this issue, to describe exactly what we're doing. Commissioner.
Thank you, Mayor. I've got some comments I'd just like to share, but let me just say, first of all, thank you to this city, and thank you, Mayor, to your leadership, and especially Commissioner Sheehan on what we have accomplished in work of compassion just since June 12th. But long before that, we were known as a compassionate city, a city that was open to everyone. Back in April, we were listed as the second or third most compassionate city in the country. A few months ago, or a few weeks ago, I should say, I learned about this movement, so let me just share some of these comments. So thank you, Commissioners, for your willingness to consider this resolution to allow us to join more than 70 cities and 45 countries to affirm our call to compassion, and that we can become a dynamic force in building community and achieving peace. I know sometimes in politics things aren't as simple as they seem, but let me say in this case it really is. We all know that Orlando is a compassionate city, and as Mayor Dyer says, we are truly a city for everyone. By passing this resolution and aligning ourselves with the worldwide movement, we can open a dialogue to hear from our residents about the ways that compassion is being exemplified in our area, highlighting all of the amazing programs our city has already done, and encouraging our students and our groups and our businesses to sign this Charter for Compassion and work as a government agency to consider compassion in making policy decisions. I would be remiss if I didn't thank Marcia Hope Goodwin and Michelle Brennan for taking an idea and making this idea and bringing it to fruition, crafting such a neat outreach so that we could complement the ways the city is already doing great things. With that, Mayor, I ask if you wouldn't mind reading the resolution for a vote and a discussion.
Thank you, Commissioner. At this point, it says I'm supposed to read the resolution, but Amy, our city clerk, was commenting to me that she didn't think she was getting enough TV time. So I thought I would let her read the resolution today. So, Madam City Clerk, could you do the honors?
You just know I can do it faster than you can. Sure. A resolution of the City of Orlando, Florida, designating Orlando as a compassionate city. Whereas Karen Armstrong, a respected scholar who studies the connections between world religions, was awarded the 2008 TED Prize of $100,000 to carry out her groundbreaking work in One Wish for a Better World, and whereas with that funding and the support of the TED organization, Karen Armstrong created the Charter for Compassion, and whereas the Compassion Action Network International and the Campaign for Compassionate Cities were created to promote the Charter for Compassion, and whereas compassion serves as a central principle of all ethical, spiritual, and moral traditions and is defined as a standard whereby each individual treats all others as each of us wishes to be treated, and whereas the City of Orlando prides itself on being an inclusive city where all are welcome and where peace, unity, and compassion are celebrated, and studies have shown that compassion promotes happiness and increases productivity and innovation, and whereas following the Pulse tragedy in June of 2016, our community showed the world that love and compassion can defeat hate and that we are stronger when we are united. And whereas by becoming a more compassionate city, region, and nation, citizens become empowered to develop a sense of cooperation and reinvigorated hope. And whereas the City Council recognizes that compassion would serve as a priority consideration when serving our citizens while providing opportunities for our citizens to serve others through city-sponsored events and when making policy decisions. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Orlando the following. Section 1, the City of Orlando is designated as a compassionate city by the International Compassion Action Network and affirms the Charter of Compassion. Section 2, the City Council affirms and endorses the principles of compassion and hereby encourages government, citizens, businesses, and organizations to work together to embrace and apply compassionate solutions in all sectors, private and public. Section 3, the City Council encourages all individuals residing and working in Metro Orlando to personally affirm the Charter of Compassion and to strive to live and act compassionately. Section 4, the city will continue to find ways that local government can actively engage the principles of a compassionate city to support compassion and service in our community. Adopted by an affirmative vote, hopefully, of a majority of a quorum present at the City Council of the City of Orlando's regular meeting this 29th day of August 2016.
Commissioner Stewart, would you like to make the motion to adopt the resolution?
I'd like to make that motion, sir.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Stewart, second by Commissioner Ortiz. Is there any discussion among commissioners? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Congratulations, Commissioner Stewart. Thank you for bringing this forward.
And thank you, Council. And look for some great things coming up in the future as we move forward to incorporate this in our policies.
All right, Madam Clerk, now that you're all warmed up, why don't we move to hearings, ordinances, second reading, number 1.
Ordinance 2016-60, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, relating to building setback standards in historic preservation zoning overlay districts, amending Chapter 62 Orlando City Code to provide that certain principal and accessory structure setback variances may be approved by certificate of appropriateness, providing technical, grammatical, and organizational amendments, providing legislative findings, and for severability, codification, correction of scrivener's errors, and an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
I know one of the ladies made that motion, but I'm not sure which
It's me.
one. Okay. Motion by Commissioner Sheehan, second by Commissioner Stewart. Discussion among commissioners. Is there anyone from the public that would like to comment, testify on this matter? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Number 2, Madam Clerk.
Ordinance 2016-59, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, amending the city's growth management plan to change the future land use map designation for a portion of certain land generally located to the south of Livingston Street, west of I-4, and north of West Robinson Street, comprised of 2.132 acres of land more or less from industrial to urban activity center, changing the property's zoning designation from P/T/PH and IG/T/PH to AC2/T/PH, providing for amendment of the city's official future land use and zoning maps, providing for severability, correction of scrivener's errors, permit disclaimer, and an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Sheehan. Is there anyone from the public that would like to testify on this matter? Discussion among commissioners. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Number 3, Madam Clerk, this is an ordinance that proposes the annexation of 11 acres of land located near the intersection of Turkey Lake Road and Sand Lake Road, which would be part of our District 6. And I'm going to go ahead and have the city clerk read it, but you'll recall that at the request of Orange County Commissioner Scott Boyd, we deferred the second reading of this ordinance to this meeting. And at the request of the county and the applicant, I recommend that we again defer the second reading until a date certain, and I will be suggesting our meeting of October 24th. The applicant and the county want to work with some of the surrounding neighborhoods and residents a little bit more on this, and I think it'd be appropriate if we give them that opportunity. So, Madam Clerk, would you go ahead and read the ordinance?
Ordinance 2016-53, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, annexing to the corporate limits of the city certain land generally located north of Sand Lake Road, east of Spring Lake, and west of Turkey Lake Road, comprised of 11.263 acres of land, more or less, providing findings, amendment of the city's boundary description, and for amendment of the city's official maps, providing for severability, correction of scrivener's errors, and an effective date.
Is there a motion to defer this second reading until a date certain, which would be our October 24th meeting?
So move.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Ings, second by Commissioner Sheehan. All in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. That will be heard on October the 24th. All right, ordinances first read, Madam Clerk.
Ordinance 2016-67, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, relating to alcoholic beverages and nightclubs, amending classifications and definitions, hours of service, sale, and consumption of alcoholic beverages, amending Chapter 33, Sections 33.02, 33.03, of the Code of the City of Orlando, Florida, terminating the temporary moratorium on the opening of new after-hours nightclubs and on the expansion or relocation of any existing after-hours nightclubs. Addressing the moratorium task force, providing for severability, codification, correction of scrivener's errors, and an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Sheehan, second by Commissioner Ings. So this is the ordinance prohibiting after-hours nightclubs that I referenced during my mayor's update. Commissioner Stewart.
I want to make sure I understand the same comment from you, and I guess for the public. But we don't have any after-hours establishments currently as we speak. Is that correct? We had
The one that opened that
has since closed. So we're not really affecting anything that's currently going on today. We're only trying to,
correct.
which is what that's why somebody called me, wanted to make sure that we're not trying to shut down bars. I mean, this is an after-hours event they're no longer around, and we just don't want to bring them back in again.
That is correct, Commissioner Stewart.
Thank you.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Number 2.
Ordinance 2016-62. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, amending the city's adopted growth management plan to redesignate certain land generally located north of West Robinson Street, south of Pittman Street, and west of North Huey Avenue, comprised of .09 acres of land, more or less, from office medium intensity in part and industrial in part to urban activity center on the city's official future land use maps, rezoning the same land from O2/T/PH to AC2/T/PH on the city's official zoning maps, providing for severability, correction of Scrivener's errors, permit disclaimer, and an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Sheehan. Is there anyone from the public that would like to testify on this matter? Discussion among commissioners. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Number 3, Madam Clerk.
Ordinance 2016-63. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, annexing to the corporate limits of the city certain land generally located north of East Michigan Street, east of South Brown Street, and south of East Crystal Lake Avenue, addressed as 1401 East Michigan Street, and comprised of .69 acres of land, more or less, amending the city's adopted growth management plan to designate the property as residential low-intensity in part and mixed-use corridor medium-intensity village in part on the city's official future land use maps, designating the property as R2A Family District along with the traditional city overlay in part and the MU1 medium-intensity mixed-use corridor district along with the traditional city overlay district in part on the city's official zoning maps, providing for amendment of the city's official future land use and zoning maps, providing for severability, correction of Scrivener's errors, permit disclaimer, and an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Sheehan, second by Commissioner Hill. Is there anyone from the public that would like to testify? Discussion among commissioners. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Number 4, Madam Clerk.
Ordinance 2016-66, an ordinance of the City of Orlando granting Hubbard Construction Company doing business as Mid-Florida Materials and non-exclusive franchise to provide roll-off container collection and disposal of solid waste within the City of Orlando, outlining franchisees' duties and providing the terms and conditions under which such franchise shall operate, providing for severability and an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Ings, second by Commissioner Sheehan. All in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Number 5.
Ordinance 2016-65, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida relating to impact fees, amending Chapter 56 Orlando City Code to establish a parks impact fee, providing purpose and intent, definitions, and establishing parks impact funds and parks benefit areas, imposing an impact fee on each new single-family and each new multifamily dwelling unit in the city, further providing for alternative impact fee calculations, credits against impact fees and exemptions, also providing for the use of funds collected, the return of certain funds, and for appeals of certain determinations, providing organizational amendments to Chapter 56, providing legislative findings, and for severability, codification, correction of Scrivener's errors, and an effective date.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Gray, second by Commissioner Stewart. So, Commissioners, we all know how important parks are to the quality of life of all of our residents, and I think we have a pretty good park system. We have great recreational programs. There's environmental reasons that parks are important. And the last couple of years, our city has been either the first or second leading city in growth in population, residential population in the entire country. And as we continue to grow in residential population, that continues to impact our parks and our needs for additional parks, and that is probably no greater need than out in District 1, where there are lots of new residents and very little in the way of parks right now. So this is an ordinance that would create a dedicated revenue source from residential construction to bring new and enhanced parks and recreation facilities to areas that need them within our cities, and that doesn't include just District 1, it's all 6 of the commission districts, quite honestly, and I think most, if not all, of the jurisdictions around us or near us already have this impact fee, and it's not going to put us out of line overall with our total impact fees when you add them together. So I'd like FJ, our city's Deputy Director of Economic Development, to give us a brief presentation. And I know the commissioners have already already been substantially briefed on this.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. Good afternoon. And as the mayor did say, I think most of you, we've actually done individual briefings, and with some of you, a couple of briefings. And so really, the park impact fee really established to situate us to accommodate growth and the demands that that places on our park system. So I'm just going to give kind of a brief overview, hit some of the high points within the ordinance, and then if you have any questions, I'm available, as well as Lisa and or Denise, to answer them. So just for background purposes, the study we conducted, because with all impact fees, you really need to have a study that kind of bases your fee on something in case of any legal challenges we may have. And so we've completed the study in 2014, and we are recommending a standards-based assessment, which basically assesses the fee on an assumed rate of utilization per capita. The other type of fee is based more on improvements, and that would require us to go back on an annual basis and update the ordinance, which we didn't feel we wanted to do. From a regional perspective, there's a range in regional park impact fee rates from a low of 0, $300 for those jurisdictions that do charge it, to a high of $3,100 per single family unit. And we found that the regional average was just a little under $1,200. As the mayor alluded to earlier, we looked at 19 Central Florida jurisdictions. 12 of those jurisdictions currently charge a park impact fee. And then the most notable, Orange County, kind of where are they? And so on the single family side, they're at $972, and on the multifamily, they're at $702. So the fee and revenue. So we're proposing an impact fee on net new single family and multifamily residential. Single family at $966 per unit, and the multifamily at $825 per unit. The revenue estimated based on our population figures is right about $2.2 million annually. And so how can we use these funds? We can use that on new residential or recreational and parks capacity, as well as capacity enhancements at existing parks. And so the only restriction, as with most impact fees, you can't use those funds on operations and maintenance of existing facilities. As far as collection is concerned, we'll be collecting, or we're proposing to collect in 3 zones, and so the funds raised in each one of those 3 zones must be utilized in those zones, and the city has 5 years to either spend or encumber those funds, and if we don't, then the entity that paid those funds is entitled to ask for to get those funds back. As far as exemptions are concerned, the fee is assessed on net new residential growth, and so if you demolish a single-family home or multifamily, you get a credit against your impact fee when you do rebuild, and that credit is good for 10 years. After the 10-year period, that expires. As far as affordable housing is concerned, there's a 100% affordable housing exemption within parks and recreation districts that are above our level of service standard, and there's only a 50% discount in those districts that are below the level of service. As far as the application of rates is concerned, we did a bunch of outreach, and March 1st, 2017 seemed to be the most palatable rate. We have projects that are in the pipeline currently, and we didn't want to jeopardize them from a pro forma standpoint. And so a minimum foundation permit is required in order to meet the March 1st, 2017 deadline. And then as far as outreach, we do a lot of outreach whenever we propose either modifying a fee or changing a fee. And so we reached out to the Greater Orlando Builders Association. Tim Johnson was with them on a number of occasions, both the full meeting as well as their specific board members. This Economic Development Department has a developers forum. We met with them on 2 separate occasions and kind of talked to them about our moving ahead with a fee. We did an individual outreach to those projects that were actually in the pipeline, had come through Municipal Planning Board, and or are getting ready to pull their permits. We also reached out to the municipal planning board members. They kind of have their finger on the pulse of development around the community. And then the Family Parks and Recreation Advisory Board also discussed the fee on 3 occasions, and so they issued this letter on August 16th indicating their strong support and endorsement for the fee. And so with that, I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, I didn't see which Commissioner Hill or Commissioner Sheehan buzzed in first. Okay, Commissioner Sheehan.
FJ, I had a question. Who charges $3,100? I was wondering who got the highest amount.
Let's see, the 3,100 was Claremont, actually.
Claremont.
Yeah.
Wow, I wouldn't expect that
They have
one.
nice
Yeah.
parts in Claremont.
Yeah? All right. And I had another question. I didn't realize there was going to be an exemption, and I've got a lot of single-family houses that are being demolished to build duplexes, and I'm not thrilled with that. And my concern is that this large-scale duplex development is going to increase the need for park space because it's just, overwhelming the neighborhoods, and there's no yards and stuff like that. So if they tear down a single-family home and build a duplex, they get a credit for one of those, right?
That's correct.
I would prefer to see that not be that, because again, with this density that's happening, I would prefer to see, if you're going to demolish a single-family home, to build a duplex that you are assessed on both sides of that, because again, those duplexes do increase the need for park spaces, and I don't think that there should be an exemption for that.
Okay, so let me just make sure I understand correctly. So if you demolish your single-family home, you would get no exemption. When you build the duplex, you would be assessed on both multifamily units?
I think you should. Like I say, if you're going to build a single-family home for single-family home, that's the same use. But with duplexes, you're increasing that use, and I don't think you should be given a exemption for that.
Mayor, just on that point real quick, can we staff take that under advisement and think that through just a little bit? I just want to make sure that's something we can do with an impact fee ordinance. Not 100% certain you can't,
Yeah,
not
I'm
certain
not sure
you
either,
can. But keeping in mind that impact fees, we can levy them, you can levy them. You can only levy them on
Kyle,
new
let's do
impacts,
this.
since you have an existing.
Let's just see what the range of options
Okay.
are when you're replacing a single-family residence with a use that is more than a single-family residence.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Hill?
Thank you, sir. I only had 2 questions. Maybe I want to make sure that I heard it correctly. The fees of the impact are to be used only in that grouping. For instance, let's say over in Lake Nona, the impact fees can only be used that you acquire from those builders in that area, correct?
Right, within one of those 3 districts, yes.
Within one of the 3, or is it utilized only in where those fees are being collected?
It's utilized where the fees are being collected. Now, there is one little caveat in the ordinance that says, to the extent that we make capacity improvements to Lake Eola, Lock Haven, or Bill Frederick Park at Turkey Lake, we can contemplate using the funds more regionally at those 3 regional parks.
And that's where I actually have a concern, because when we start talking about, especially with the Renaissance of Paramore, 100% is going to be waived because it's all going to be affordable, the majority. So there'll be no fees really assessed there. So there's going to be no money truly generated in that area for improvements in my parks in that area, especially when we're talking about Lake Lorna Dune, which is needed $4 million, right, to make that the Geola of the West Side.
Right.
So I'm having a problem with that.
Yeah, and again, this fee is really kind of just one tool that Lisa and the Parks Department have in their toolkit. It's not
And
really a fix-all.
I totally understand that,
Yeah.
but to exclude a side that desperately need renovation, and I would love to have a beautiful park over at Lake Lorna Dune where we have Camp World Stadium and we have all kinds of people coming in. We need to find a solution and maybe include Lake Lorna Dune in the Turkey Lake and the Lake Eola zone as regional.
Can I clarify, and if you could correct me if I'm wrong, FJ? Commissioner, when you look at the map, you see 3 different zones. So Lake Lorna Doone is located in the north zone. You see that on the map? You see
I
the
see the
north,
map
the
very
southeast,
well.
and the southwest. And so all of the revenues that are generated in the north zone have to be spent in the north zone. So this includes revenue from all the way to the northern tip. So in other words, money that could be generated to be invested in a place like Lake Lorna Doone Park comes from the entire zone, not just from the Paramore community. It comes from the entire
I
north
understand
zone.
that, but the new residential that will be built is going to be 100% affordable, where we will not generate impact fees.
Not in the entire north zone. So the
Tell me
north
what
zone
else is
includes...
really going to be built to generate the revenue that we need.
So, but the north zone includes everything north of the 408.
College Park, Baldwin Park.
Yes,
Colonial
all of
Town,
that is
Baldwin
all
Park.
north.
Yeah.
That's the whole north zone. So all of the revenues generated basically north of the 408 go into one pot and can be spent anywhere in that entire zone north of the 408.
Most of it is going to not be, when we start talking about the north zone, when we start talking about College Park, when we start talking about downtown, is truly apartment living, those type of, so it's not going to truly be single family.
Commissioner, when we looked at kind of the growth over the next 10 years in the 3 districts, in the North District, I think the 10-year revenue projection was about $6 million of the $22 million. So there is some revenue that's derived
I got to
out
wait
of the
10
North.
years.
Over 10 years. Well, over 10 years, yeah, and then in the
Is
southeast
there a way we
different.
can look at where Lake Lorna Doone can be included in these other parks?
We'd have to look at the definition.
Yeah, we
So the-
certainly can. The reason Lake Lorna Doone was not included in the definition of a regional park is because of its size, and its scope is not on par with what we consider the 3 regional parks of the city. So I understand that we only have what we now consider to be 3 regional parks that truly serve the entire region. And the reason why you can't just sort of use impact fees from one part of town to sort of anywhere is that you have to be able to show a direct benefit to the people that are actually paying the fees. So that's why you have to have these districts, and when you pay into the district, you can only use that money in that district. The one exception to that rule that we think is okay is the truly regional parks that serve the entire community. And the way we've defined regional parks so far right now is that we have 3 of them, Lake Eola, Lock Haven, and Bill Frederick Park. If we have others in the future, if we turn one of our existing parks into a regional park because of its size or because of its amenities, then we can certainly do that in the future.
I'm not satisfied, I'll be honest, because we're talking about West Lakes being built, we're talking about all the families that's coming to that area. We might need to reconsider it being a regional park. It's a regional park to those that live in that area.
We'll take a look at that between first and second.
Sure.
Yeah.
Commissioner Ings?
Thank you, Mayor. FJ, on the figures for the new single-family residential at $966 per unit, and then also for the new multifamily residential at $825 per unit, how did you arrive at those figures respectively?
We basically, as with most impact fees, City Council has the ability to implement a policy discount. And so with the transportation impact fee, it's 50% across the board. When we looked at the range of regional rates, and in order to keep the city competitive in that, we determined that about an 86% discount kind of kept us in the range. We didn't want to be on the high end of the fee scale, nor did we want to be at the low end of the fee scale. And so we basically took the consultant recommendation and basically 16% of both of those recommended rates. And again, the full rate is the full fix, but this is just one tool in Lisa's funding toolkit to sort of advance the capacity building ability of our parks system.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor.
Commissioner Sheehan?
To respond to Commissioner Hill's concerns, can we prioritize the allocation of funds based on level of service and you know, because if she's got a level of service that's lower, can we prioritize the allocation based on level of service?
the allocation to an actual capacity
Yes.
project? Yeah, and again, you can do that through the annual CIP process, so the city's annual
Well,
capital improvement.
You know, but we have to fight over that. I'm talking about codifying it so that nobody has to fight over it being fair, that it's just fair based on the level of service needs.
Sure, we can look
Okay.
at, under the second item we were going to look at, we can take a look at
I
that.
think that would make it more fair, and that way that it's, you know, it's very difficult when we're talking through the CIP process. Everybody's fighting over the same pot of money. It's very difficult.
Right.
But if we can get it prioritized based on level of service, I think then it will go to the neighborhoods where it's most needed.
Okay.
First.
Okay.
Thank you.
Not wanting to ask a question that I don't already know the answer to, I'm going to ask anyways. If you have 10-year projections, is there a big difference between the three districts in terms of the amount of money that's being raised?
Yeah, and again, it's based on growth.
Assume the east, or whatever we call the southeast one, is the most.
Yeah, and so the southeast of the 22, the southeast is projected to be about 14. That's where we're seeing the greatest demand placed on our system. The southwest is approximately 3.2 million over the 10 years, and then the North Benefit District is about 6.2.
Okay. Commissioner Gray?
Yeah, I just wanted to respond. And Commissioner Hill, you bring up some great points. They're legit. A couple of the other issues, though, to think about as I went through this, and Kyle kind of touched on, I think nobody likes to charge higher fees for anything, but I think it's fair to say to a builder who's being charged a fee, hey, whatever you're paying in your area, it's an impact, and we'll apply it in that general area. The other thing I bring up, again, it's just reality, nobody's fault. The reality is a lot of districts have CRAs that help support some of these things. And quite frankly, again, selfishly, I'll be the first to admit it, I don't have one in District 1. And the perfect example is what we did a couple of months ago with Constitution Green. We were able to buy property and turn it into a park by virtue of that district having a CRA. So I'm not sure there's a perfect way, but there's just another side. You bring up some great points, but it just seems to me Southeast, as we know, is the fastest growing part of the city, and we haven't had a new park in 12 years. So anyway, just another
That
perspective.
particular park is not in the CRA, unfortunately. That's where my problem lies.
Understood.
You could talk to your county commissioner and try to get that expanded, because
That's
the
what I'm working on.
CRA
I am
goes,
working on that now.
touches the boundaries of
Yeah,
that.
I'm working on that now.
And I just also want to clarify that the funds have to be used to expand capacity. So it can't just be for renovation, for instance. It has to be to add more ball fields or more playgrounds or more amenities.
We have the
that
blueprint
don't
for that,
exist.
Lisa. Let's
Yes.
not say, we're trying to add capacity
Right,
there.
I
We've been
understand.
working on it for now 2 years.
Yes, I
But we
understand.
have no funds.
Yes, I understand.
Commissioner, we'll visit some of those issues between first and second read and see what we can do. Okay, let's see. Let's take some public testimony. I have one appearance request card, Doug Head, in opposition.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. I just wanted to, the reasons for my opposition are not so strongly opposition.
Name and address.
Name and address. Doug Head, 1415 West Robinson Street, within ball throwing distance of Lake Lorna Doone Park. As a resident of that area, I couldn't associate myself more strongly with the concerns that have been expressed by Commissioner Hill. We need that, and I just cite some examples. One thing regarding the Main Street or the CRA issues is there is a Orange Blossom Trail Development Board fund that does overlap with about half of that park. And maybe it's a place to begin to look for some ways of moving some money around to help to seed funding for that park. But as written, I think that the ordinance doesn't really accomplish the goal of seeing Lorna Doone Park, which the managers of the old Citrus Bowl described as their front yard. specifically identifying that regional attraction with that regional park. And I think that it's high time to recognize that park as a regional asset, something that can really be dynamic in terms of both the economics of the immediate area and the economics of the entire city, and drawing a greater level of glamour. Now, if everything is geared to capacity, an additional ball field, maybe we're not accomplishing that, but we certainly need to think about the quality of the large parks. Lake Lorna Doone Park is, in fact, larger than Lake Eola Park. And recognizing that fact, and recognizing the fact that you're doing this ordinance now, I would certainly support some further discussion of the language that gets to the needs of the citizens and the real needs of parks in our community, while recognizing the enormous levels of growth in the southeast part of the city. We don't want to just hollow out the core and leave nothing behind and begin to look like Detroit. So, Lorna Doone is a real high priority. The second thing I just wanted to mention, and the reason that I rose in opposition, although I'm certainly pleased to hear the conversation today, is that I really think that, and this may be impossible under the law, and Kyle could guide you in this matter, but there's got to be recognition that that fixed fees applied per household increase the costs for modest homes by a greater percentage than $1 million homes in Winter Park, to cite one neighborhood. But it's really, I wish there were a way to somehow gear this fee to the size of the building being built, or the number of bedrooms, or something like that, that would be indicative of true park use. Thank you.
Doug, you're the first person in 14 years to compare us to Detroit. Kyle, I think that's problematic, isn't it? The second
Well,
part of
it's
that.
problematic under the way we've done the initial study. It may not be impossible, but what we'd have to do in a study is we'd have to be able to demonstrate that families that live in bigger homes use parks more than families in smaller homes. And I'm not positive we could do that, but it's certainly something that we can look at in the next study. And keep in mind, with impact fees, we have an obligation to relook at them every few years, not only the amount, but the assumptions that we use in deriving that amount. This ordinance would obligate us to relook at it every 5 years. When we do that study, that may be something we can ask the person who conducts the study to look into.
Commissioner Sheehan.
Well, and I don't want to pit Eola against any other park or any other commissioner's district, but I just want to say that I had to fight. I mean, the Lake Eola fountain was broken for a year and a half. We didn't get that fixed. The park looked terrible for a long time. So in order to get CRA support, I had to really fight for that. So it's not like it just happened overnight. It was something that I really had to work to make sure that we were taking care of the park, because the park had really gotten shop-worn. The ting was only half lit. The fountain was broken. It looked terrible. So I'm appreciative of the CRA support, but it was something that, that I had to fight for, because the park had really gotten a lot of use and not a lot of respect. So, and I don't want to pit, group against group, but that's, advocacy that I've done to make sure that we have, and I support you as well, Commissioner. Okay? So I just want to clarify that, Mayor. Thank you.
Turns out that was the best lightning strike
Ever in American history, exactly.
Is there further questions or comments? Commissioner Ortiz?
No, I was just.
Oh, you were turning
pushing my button.
What were you doing?
Just pushing the yellow button now.
Okay.
All right. If you want to talk about CRAs, we can start talking about CRAs.
No, today's not today. All right, further comment, hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. That concludes the official business of the Orlando City Council for today, August the 29th.